Hello, and welcome to Rolling Out Sisters with Superpowers. Today we have a fantabulous guest by the name of Maya Smith, and she is the CEO, founder of The Do. She's a multi-hyphenate entrepreneur, professional stylist, and beauty creator, a licensed cosmetologist, and like I said, the owner of the acclaimed Do Salon in Georgia. And she also has a hair care line. You guys may have heard of it, The Do, which she describes as a sucker-free hair care line that's formulated for results and performance. Welcome to the show, Maya.
You do that so well. Welcome. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I love the introduction. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Just thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I'm so happy that you are here with us because you have so much to share with people who are coming up, who are looking up to you to see what it was that you did to make yourself successful and see what they can glean from that to make themselves successful too. And I always like to start at the beginning of the journey because everybody looks at someone who's a success and say, oh, they made it. They're an overnight success. However, we never or rarely hear about their journey to becoming an overnight success. And most of the times it's like 10, 20 years in the making. So let's start with that. Where did your love of hair care come from? And how did you get started?
I've been doing this literally my whole life. I actually got licensed while I was in high school. So by the time I started my senior year in high school, I mean, this is back in the day where vocational ed was a thing.
Yeah.
So before I finished my senior year in high school, I was already working. I worked at JCPenney's salon. So I would, get in my little VW bug and drive down the street and work the second half of the day. So I've been doing this for a really, really long time. And even before then, I was the kid that swept the hair up and answered the phone and brought, made the coffee and the donuts. So like my very beginning in the hair care industry was in service and customer service. Mm-hmm. So just watching, in the late 80s, early 90s, just watching these transformations happen. Seeing the educational environment and the synergy between the stylists. And it was very different at that time because, Black Hollywood was emerging, and, we had shows like In Living Color and Living Single. So the stylists that I was working around, I was just a kid then, but they were working on those shows. Oh, wow. So I was really, really attracted just to that environment and seeing not just the results that they were creating, but the education that was happening between the stylists. So when I went to cosmetology school, I wasn't really planning to do it completely as a career. I wanted to go to art school, but I ended up just being a lot better at it than I thought. And I had the support of those people who had kind of brought me up in the business from a kid. And they encouraged me to go. My parents encouraged me to go. And from then, I've just been a career hairstylist.
I love that. So you said in the 80s and 90s, like that can't be right because you look like you are a 25 girl.
Thank you.
So fast forward 5 years later, right?
No, but I was a kid. So yeah, it's been 27 years for me. Wow. Since I started. Yeah, time flies.
Yeah. So let's talk about the vision of The Do. Walk us through that journey of you setting a vision and actually going after it and achieving it and having the results that you have.
So fast forward to, I think I was doing hair maybe about 10, 15 years. I got married and my husband was in the Air Force. And I was living like in a completely different country. We lived in Germany at the time and servicing a predominantly military community, active duty service members and spouses. Mm-hmm. Some, a lot of local German nationals as well, but it was basically an American salon that I launched. that was focused on textured hair. And so it was before there were natural hair products everywhere. Natural hair and just wearing your hair curly in public wasn't a thing. And it certainly wasn't a thing for the military community because of all of the dress and appearance guidelines and regulations that they had to adhere to. So I had the really specific task of figuring out how to get my clients wearing their hair straight and curly. They wanted to kind of test out the natural thing on their off days, but then they still had to figure out how to comply with what then were really strict regulations in hair care. So I saw that there were products that were strictly for curly hair, strictly for natural hair, and they were too greasy and heavy. And then there were, the products that were more geared toward relaxed and straight hair, but they didn't have the moisture and the hydration that you would need to wear your hair natural. So I just started messing around and really reaching out from Germany to a lot of cosmetic chemists and learning more just about the process and the business of hair care formulation. And I just acted as the practitioner. So, working with the team of chemists, I tried out a bunch of formulas and used my clients as my focus group and developed something that I felt worked best for somebody who wanted to wear their hair in any texture, but that addressed the needs of my clients. And it took about 2 or 3 years to really nail it down. But once we did it, then, we had the do. So I actually launched the do from Germany.
Wow.
And it kind of like, it blew up overseas. We were in Jet Magazine and Deluxe, and we had a lot of, domestic energy because at the time, people were really looking for what we had.
Yeah.
And then, just the growing it from that point and still really being focused on our clients. That's how we ended up deciding to come back to the States and launch our second salon.
How exciting to test and learn. So exciting. Now you said, so which came first? Did the products come first or did the salon come first?
We opened the salon. It was called the Honeycomb in Germany first. And that's where we started to develop and test the products, working with that group of clients. And that's really where we learned that we had a challenge that needed to be met. And then we moved back to the States.
Okay.
And launched the second salon and then relaunched the do.
So talk to us for a minute about finding a chemist. What did that process look like? You said you worked with them for about 2 years. How did you know what you were looking for? How did you describe and work with him the products that you knew that you needed? Just talk about that whole process for a second.
So it's really interesting. Like, I am not a scientist and I don't pretend to be. I am a cosmetologist. I stay in my lane. The scope of my expertise is science and hair care, within, the bubble of my training. So I've always believed that it's important to go find people who really, really do what it is they do, who are invested in, the science of what they do. So I just really, at the time, just got on Google. I figured out who I wanted to work with, who's, the scientists who had the same values that I had, who had experience in, at the time, what was called, ethnic hair care formulation. And I kind of merged a group of people who specialize, like I said, in all natural product formulation with people who worked in more professional salon formulation, because salon formulation is going to be a lot more about results and the science of hair care. And, the natural formulation is going to have a lot more to do with, the Ayurvedic side, the plant sciences. So I wanted to merge those two. And I found that working with more than one kind of scientist, and then myself working as the practitioner. So I got to be the one who actually developed it. So even though I don't pretend to be a scientist, and that's not what I do, I was the one who implemented, each formula. I gave them my feedback. They would send me something and I'll be like, no, this isn't it. I would send my clients home with stuff and they'll be like, no, this isn't it. And then, I was able to kind of enforce my thought and my value and my philosophy of hair care. And they were just there to facilitate what I needed from, a scientific formulaic perspective.
I love that. I love that. Let's move next to product development. So you're now the owner of the Dew Salon in Georgia, and you have an entire product line of products that you make for us, right? So natural hair and all of that. Tell us about product development and where you start.
Product development as it relates to like how I do things in the salon.
Well, yeah, product development in terms of all of the products that you have available for purchase. So let me just go to your website right quick. So let's talk about some of these. Give me 1 second. Let's talk about, okay, wait a minute. Let's talk about your.
I kind of get what you're asking, but I just want to know what side of the spectrum you're asking, like how I develop each product.
Yeah, how do you develop each product that is currently out of stock on your website?
No. Thank COVID for that. I'm just saying, Mr. COVID is just really acting up. So how we develop our products is I actually have a system that I've been running since I started working with my clients in Germany. It really hasn't changed. I use the same group of people, the same heads of hair, and I break everything down based on the conditions that, the conditions of hair, the textures of hair. I separate my clients that way. And then I just kind of run data. I do a lot of trials. I send them home with things. But really the way that I come up with the products that I'm going to launch is based on my community, on the culture. I'm listening. I think the thing that is unique about being a hairstylist and being behind the chair versus being, starting your career from the boardroom is that I'm in on all of the conversations that you all have about what they're doing, what's working, what's not working, where the white space and the gaps and holes are at shelf. So the things that I create have always been really guided by my consumer, which is my client. They're guided by the people that I'm really talking to. This isn't a girl that I've heard of or that I've observed or just, watched data from women with textured hair. This is a girl that sits in my chair every day. This is somebody that I know, and she is me. So every single thing that you see us develop from the Dew is addressing a very specific concern or thought or feeling that's been expressed to us from you. So we don't make these things up when we're developing product. We really do listen to what the needs of women with textured hair or people with textured hair have, and we just roll with that.
Now, aside from listening to your clients in the chair, getting that firsthand feedback, how else do you listen to your customer? How do you gather that feedback?
We really just interact directly with people that want to hear what we have to say. I believe that hair care is, 80% education. So a lot of times, I can throw you any product. I mean, there's a million product. We're all overwhelmed with all of the things that are out there, right? But if you don't know how to use it, if you don't understand why you need it, then it's really difficult for you to make that connection and connect the dots between what's out there and how it relates to you. So I really try to communicate by sharing. People don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. And so it's important to us not just to be out there pushing, slinging hair cream, but really to connect with you and understand that, that you really do, that you don't know. Yeah. So that's really how we just connect with people directly and not in a roundabout way.
Okay, I love that. I love that. Now, your branding is so unique. It's so fire. It's so eye-popping, right? Like you can't help but to walk down the aisle in the store and be like, oh, what's that? Because it catches your eye. Walk us through the story behind how you selected to brand your products and what it was inspired by.
really everything that I create, I really just want to be a true reflection of the person that created it and the people that it's serving, right? So, I mean, hip hop, obviously, pop art, fashion are all parts of, they're some of my strongest creative influences. So, I this is a grassroots brand. So when we launched, all of my packaging, my web design, all of those things I did on my own because I was free, right? I have a background in visual arts and graphic design. So I was able to, do my own labels, and I'm still doing my own labels and a lot of the branding and stuff. But really everything that you see is just this amalgam of things that I love. I really love color. I really love music. I feel like, hip hop is one of the things that connects everyone. And even being all the way overseas, it was one of the things that we all had in common. And I really like to bring a sense of nostalgia to my work, because I think when you can look back on your fondest memories, my personal fondest memories, are in a time where hip hop was really fun.
Yeah.
In, the 90s. So, I really just try to bring who I am as, as a stylist and as an artist to my work, because the burden that I have now is where anyone could just sit in my chair and actually meet me and kind of suck in that salon environment and the love from behind the chair. Now I have to be able to communicate that with my packaging and with people who may or may not ever meet me. So I can't stand in the shelves, in the aisles and say, hey, my shampoo is dope. I just want to communicate that sense of love and nostalgia that you feel, as being a part of Do Gang.
Absolutely. And you communicate that effortlessly. Your products are amazing and they look good. Like, it's nothing better than selling something that you like, you love, and it looks good. It just does.
I'm always excited about the packaging, but I spend a lot more time worrying about what's in the bottle. That's the packaging and the branding for me is the easy part. But actually developing it and making sure that what you get, that it's not a bait and switch, that you're actually getting something that's legit. And that's, professional grade and salon grade is where we spend most of our time.
Love that. Love that. Now, I want to get into where people can find your products and that whole journey of getting into big box stores. But I also want to know, before we go there, at what point in time in your journey did you realize, Mama, I made it? I made it. Like, at what point in time was that where you kind of, you work with head down and you constantly just pushing and pushing and pushing. And then you look up and you be like, damn, I really made it. Like, what point in time was that?
Girl, I'm looking at my watch like, let me know when. It's funny because I always still feel like I don't read my own hype. I don't drink my own Kool-Aid. I always really feel like I'm still developing and growing, because to me, the goal is much more about my community. So I'm really, I get the question that you're asking me, but the moment, there really hasn't been a moment for us. We really are just trying to make she's really like my sixth child. So I'm always really just trying to grow her up to serve and to have the most impact in the industry. And as the industry is changing, those benchmarks are changing. I think one of my most memorable moments was like COVID had just jumped off and we were all like in the house bored. And we were on Beyonce's Black Parade. And I was like, damn, like, like they know who we are. Like that was a moment.
Yes.
But it's funny, some of the most notable press that we've got, or energy or recognition that we got, has just come organically. So I really don't, I feel like I haven't had a moment yet, because that's not really my focus. To me, it's really serving you and how you feel about the do, just you, like literally just you, has always been a lot more important to me than being recognized by a bunch of people. It's really when it comes down to you and it's just you in the mirror with your coffee trying to figure this out. That's where I feel like I have the most impact, because that's just a part of my training as a hairstylist. Like, it doesn't matter how popular we get. It's a lot of people out there popular. But for us, it's who we really are genuinely connecting with, in those quiet moments where it's just you and your mirror.
I love your humility. And, even though I understand that you're like, I feel like I haven't made it, like your distribution, your nationwide distribution, your sales, being in all of these big box stores might say just a little different. You're in Target, you're in Walgreens, you're in Walmart, you're in Sally's Beauty. You're all over the place. So that right there says that you made it. Like, you made it.
Okay, so to your point, yes. If that's the goal, then yes.
Yeah.
But what I definitely want to throw out there is when you get there, you have to stay there.
Yeah.
Hype can get you into a lot of doors. Being popular or well-known can walk you into a lot of rooms, but it is still that commitment to the culture. It is still that commitment to the art and science of hair care that keeps you there. Because there's a lot of times when what I really do as a hairstylist, I'm gonna pause for a second because you're about to hear an alarm. Sorry. I hope y'all cut that out.
Yeah.
What I really do as a hairstylist a lot of times is in conflict with the business of beauty, because there's a way to make money. There's things that we can market that aren't necessarily true and don't apply to me and what I understand about cosmetology. So, I've got, we have like some dope distribution. We are popping up in, a lot of places, and I am really, really grateful. I think, if that is making it, then yeah, we're slowly arriving. But I think really truly making it is getting there and staying there and still being able to maintain our individuality and still be myself. Because a lot of times I feel like there's a pressure when you get into certain outlets to do what everyone else is doing, or to kind of, be shaped into a brand that other people want you to be, because now you're, more commercial. And so the fight is still keeping it about the hair.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of energy around, being Black entrepreneurs and Black owned and, blah, blah, blah. But, are we still talking about hair? A lot of times we're not. And that really is our focus at the Do.
Very well said. Thank you for sharing that. Now, being in all of these nationwide retailers, walk us through, how did you get that process started? Like, you had the vision of, I know this is where I want to be, but sometimes taking practical steps to get there is a mismatch. So walk us through.
So here's the truth. I was approached while I was in Germany. I think we had been being the Do for maybe 6 to 8 months. It was still a very young brand. And we were just on Instagram. Like, I didn't have a Facebook or nothing. And I started to get a lot of calls and emails from distributors and brokers here in the States. But I was still focused on my salon. My real dream was to build more salons at the time. I wasn't really, I made the Do for me and my clients. I didn't really think about mass retail. I wasn't thinking about, and at the time there was no prestige or masstige outlets for this category. There was nothing. There were maybe 2 brands that were actually at shelf in, like Target, or like natural hair hadn't hit the mass retail yet. And I said no a lot because I didn't know what that meant for my business. I didn't know what that meant for my lifestyle. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to come back to the States. So the process for us was really like, it wasn't like, oh, I'm making this brand and I want it to be everywhere, because I didn't even know that that was a possibility. I said no a lot until I realized that fast forward maybe 5 years when I came back to the States, and there were a lot of other brands out there. And I saw that there was just no professional voice at shelf. There was no one who actually had a background in hair care. And I think it's so important if we're helping people care for their hair, like there's gotta be somebody there that's actually, paid a mortgage and raised children on, that's got receipts on hair care. Like there was no voice from the perspective of cosmetology. There was a lot of marketing. And I felt like, okay, we have an opportunity not only to be that voice, but also to bring what we've been doing for our community to everyone. And I hesitated for a long time to do that, to bring the Do to mass retail, because I didn't want anyone messing with my messaging. I didn't want to have to say anything that I didn't really believe. And I knew that there would be pressure on us to market this product and what it did. And I felt like that there was a charge for me to be more accountable in the things that I said, and the honesty and authenticity that I brought to the space. But as far as the process is, I had to find the right distributor after, people had reached out to us a lot. We had a lot of brokers that were trying to help us get into that space. But for us, it was really just timing and deciding who we wanted to partner with that would allow us to continue to just be ourselves.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that. We appreciate that. And we're now getting into Women's History Month. I'm going to shift the conversation a bit. So happy Women's History Month.
Happy Women's History Month. Yeah.
And of course, you are a history maker. You've already done a lot for our culture, and we appreciate that. But share with us, if you will, women history makers that have inspired you along your journey.
Wow, where do I begin? I can start with my mentors. Tracy Johnson is a major influence to me. She's a celebrity hairstylist that is like the GOAT when it comes to shortcuts. Anybody you saw really in the 90s on screen with a short pixie cut, that was her. And I had the amazing opportunity to work as her assistant for about a year. So I learned a lot just about entrepreneurship. This is before Instagram and everybody was getting the bag, and there was this, woman CEO push. She was one of the first people that I saw that was really instrumental in what I saw as female entrepreneurship. Kirsten Wilson is another person that I worked with that gave me a shot when I really needed a job in the salon. I learned a lot from her. So for me, there are a lot of very notable people that we all look to when it comes to just Women's History Month, right? The big ones. But in my personal experience, the reason why I'm here is because of, my mother, all of the women that I personally knew that sold into my life directly from a very personal level, that gave me a shot when I needed it, that spoke life into my career when I wanted to give up. So for me, when it comes to Women's History Month, I think we should all really big up the women that we've met in real life, that have modeled to us and shown us what womanhood looks like, and what it means to be female, because you're right, it's a spectrum, right, for all of us. And that's my experience.
Love that. And what tips do you have for the younger generation, the younger history makers that are up and coming, and they might want to start out in the beauty industry? What tips do you have for them starting out, and what should they be focused on?
Well, the first thing I want to say to the youth is that it's okay to listen. I think now we're living in a world where expertise isn't really like the jam. Like even, we're looking at our YouTube and our TikTok, and it is the norm, right, for for younger people to look to each other and not to people who have done something before them. So my first piece of advice is, and I learned this much later in life, is that it's okay to pay attention to and to listen to the old heads, so to speak, the aunties. Give us a little credit because we know a few things, right? And that's something that I see is kind of diminishing. There was a kind of respect and reverence that we had in my generation for women that had done it. That I see kind of diminishing, not of any fault of their own, but because of the emergence of technology and this influencer culture, we're not listening to other women, and that's so important. But I will also say, if you're coming into the beauty space, and I've said this a lot recently, it's just to check your motive. Make sure that you are really intent on the people that you're serving, and not being so quick to focus on what you're selling and the bag that you're about to get, but to focus on really who you are serving. If you are genuinely connected to the mission of making something better for someone else, you'll always be successful. And I think that there's no room in the beauty space for anyone who's coming in to capitalize on, and I'm just speaking specifically in the textured hair space because that's my lane. But there's no room for anyone coming in here who isn't really about helping people. We have a lot of conversations about entrepreneurship and, getting the bag, but the business of beauty has to be separated from the art and science of hair care and cosmetics. Because we have a lot of business conversations in this space, because it's very attractive to get into the beauty textured hair space is growing. The category itself is growing so rapidly. It's a good look to get into this on the business end, but if you don't really have your pulse really connected to hair care or to beauty, it's not your lane. There are a lot of other places that you can be useful and that you can have a contribution to, but it's really important to know what you're talking about, because specifically Black women have suffered because of people coming into this space that are just trying to sell them something. And so if we're really saying that we're for the culture, if we're really saying that we're caring about our community, then we have an obligation to bring something to the market that is improving what's available to us, instead of just second verse, same as the first. Let me, push this new hair cream. Like, what are we bringing to the space that's useful and valuable to the culture?
Very well said. And I want to touch on success, because you were just talking about being successful and what that means. And I like to ask successful people all the time, how do they define success? Because you'll find that you get a variety of different answers. But for you, how do you define success?
I really, how well I'm able to, let me rephrase that. For me, being successful is about that quiet moment I talked about earlier, when it's just me in the mirror. Am I a good steward of what I've been given, right? Success to me was I able to take what God gave me? What did I do with what I was given? And can I look myself in the mirror when it comes to my sense of integrity and humility in the way that I handled that? A lot of times, we see success as being about what other people see. But at the end of the day, it doesn't mean anything if you can't, lay your head down at night knowing that you were a good steward of the resources that you were given and that you're making a real impact on other people. We've learned in the past couple of years, there are a lot of people that were here 3 years ago that aren't here. And so my mind lately has always gone back to what I'm leaving behind and the conversations that people will have about me and about the do if I'm not here. We just lost Christia from Thank God I'm Natural. there's a whole legacy that she left behind because of the way that she was committed to excellence in her brand. So success to me is much more about what you leave than what it is that you're doing and what other people can see you doing.
You're dropping some gems today, girl. Thank you so much. This is Sisters with Superpowers. So if you had to say that you had a superpower, if you would claim a superpower for you, what would that superpower be?
I think my superpower is confidence and commitment. When I do something, even if it's crazy and it doesn't look like anything else that's out there, I just try to have ultimate confidence in my creativity. I really believe that if you have a dream in your heart or a vision for something, and it really ideas and inspiration comes through you. So, you know, I mean, my superpower is really just being a good steward of that and being confident that if it came through me and my intentions were good, then it's supposed to be fire. And I don't try to control what happens to my creativity after it leaves my hand. I just let God do his thing.
Girl, you are blessed, and you are blessing so many people, and you can just hear it and see it shine through you. So thank you so much for that. As we ramp down this interview, tell us some of the things that you are working on next, and for yourself as well as your products.
I'm just about to burst into glitter, as you can see. I'm thrilled. We're working really on some, I can't talk too much about it, but I'm going to try and bite around the edges of it. I'm working on leaning into my professional community. That's how we got here. I want more people who are like me, who were just, you know, working behind the chair and put their money in a sneaker box and had a dream to learn more about how to get not just to retail, but how to build a brand for yourself, because most people don't realize that it's hard for hairstylists to retire. We have a whole lot of money too soon and don't have the skill set that we need to turn that into wealth. So I'm going to really work on educating more in my field. And also reaching out to survivors of domestic violence, helping people get off their feet when they leave a dangerous situation and see the light in what's up next. That is a part of my personal story. So I really want to start to work more with the parts of my journey that strengthened me the most and brought me here.
Yes, sis, I love it. Where can we find you? Where can we find information on your new educational, in my mind, courses? You didn't say that, but where can we find information?
I'm not doing no. Okay. So you can find more about, and I forgot to tell you, yeah, and we have new things dropping for the Do all year. Like I have like 5 new projects. So you'll see, you know, not just the same thing in a different flavor, but more solutions, hair care solutions, obviously, from the Do. You can find out more about all of that just by sticking to thedo.com, first of all, and following us on Instagram at I Love the Do. Do Gang does not play about that email list. We drop all type of exclusive things that way, and not just, you know, sell you more stuff, but keep it fun and educational. So the best way to be connected to us in our journey is to follow us on social media and to be a part of our email list.
Love it, love it, love it. Y'all heard it here. Go sign up for their email list. Go follow them at We Love the Do. Go buy products.
I Love the Do. Sorry.
I Love the Do. Okay. Okay. Go follow her at I Love the Do. We love their products. Go buy some more products, and then stay tuned for all of the great and amazing things that she has coming up this year. Thank you so much for being an inspiration. Yes, thank you so much for being a woman history maker. Thank you so much for being Black Girl Magic, like all of it. Just thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Portia. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Take care. And we will be following that journey. We're going to be talking real soon.
Absolutely.
Okay. Take care. Bye-bye.